G'day, welcome back to the channel. Hopefully there's audio now. Unfortunately, the last couple of videos have lost out audio, so we'll see. We're back with the SciSpam team, except we've made some changes. So we were losing a lot out to Farigiraf, so we've put Taunt on our Alakazam, because if we put it on Prankster, it gets denied in Iron Tail. So let's see how much that comes up. Otherwise, we have our next opponent here. Likely going to lead with the Sneasler. So do we use this as an opportunity to get Glamora in? Maybe not. Let's test our new setup. And if they go for the Sneasler, we can at least have Incineroar in. And then, yeah, we're going to need an answer for Snorlax and the Snow, which is probably going to blizzard us to all crazy. We don't really have an answer for Snow Cone either. So we're going to be a bit hard pressed in this one, I think, but let's go with that. I don't think they would lead Gengar Sneasler against us, but maybe they're bold enough to. Game a trainer. So we see Sneasler and Snorlax. So potential belly drum here. Question is whether if we stay in Alakazam form, we can tank a fake out. And we taunt the Snorlax and then pick him up next turn as we Psychic Terrain. So they might fake the Alakazam out here, and they do, which is fine. We can't be flinched. We set up the Psychic Terrain. Our Inner Focus ability prevents us from being flinched, so we get the taunt and hopefully block their belly drum. Or Fissure. They were just going to straight up try and Oko us. Righto. Anyway, it's expanding force time. They haven't unburdened. So we should outspeed them. They try to fake us out. It didn't work. They've decided to stay in. It's not going to end well for them. We get Thick Fat. Kind of cool. Sneasler protects, so maybe this will double into the Snorlax then. So yep, protect, but we are hitting both, so we should at least still get it on the Snorlax, and it is specially defensive. So are they gonna keep just trying to randomly fissure us, is the question. So we can get some damage off. It gets a Citrus Berry. It's going to go for the fissure again. This time connects. Picks up the Meowstic though. But we survive with the Focus Sash. So that is most unfortunate for them. So yeah, I think playing a Oko build without the Oko, without like, Mega Halucha Entrainment, giving it no guard is certainly risky. But we should pick up a KO or a double KO here, hopefully. Because surely you don't just keep trying to fissure, right? So yeah, that'll pick up the Snorlax. 2 down, 2 to go. Yeah. We had options for the opening then, which is good. Now we're likely going to see the Choice Scarf Vanillux and a Mold Breaker or Sand Rush. So yeah, nothing stopping us from again. We're likely going to lose the Meowstic and the Alakazam here. Are we okay with that? What have we got in the back? We got Incin and... So let's protect on the Alakazam for a turn. And let's afford to lose the Meowstic. Again, we're expecting to see a Blizzard here, but if we can get Incin with the... Oh, they shouldn't be using Ice Shard. That is the incorrect choice. That's big damage on the Vanillix because of the crit. And then we see Excadrill more randomly trying to Oko us. So yeah, that didn't work as expected. But then they're not Choice Scarf, or they're locked into a priority ability, which is not great for them. So we should be able to clean up here. Because yeah, we just straight up Expanding Force, and Excadrill survives. But I think our Meowstic should be faster, and it is, and we get a single target Expanding Force. So there you go, a team not prepped for Psy Spam. We'll take that on game 1. And yeah, we didn't lose a Pokemon, so that'll be another contribution to our weekly task. And there we go. First win for the session. Pretty happy about that. But I don't expect them to be all that easy. That was just some random person trying to Oko people on a 30% chance, which is risky business. All right, so here we can potentially see the Gardevoir lead. So again, we're a lot safer now with our Meowstic Alakazam leads than we were previously. We do have a Basculegion and a Garchomp to prep for and their Mega Meganium. But I think Pangoro and Incineroar are going to be able to do work here. They are going to be in rain, so it'd be a good option to bring Decidueye. But I just don't think... Or do we bring it instead of the Pangoro? I think we bring it instead of the Pangoro. So yeah, turn 1 likely the Pelipper and Archeludon, potentially. Maybe the Basculegion with Pelipper in the rain. Archeludon and Pelipper, so they're going to try turn 1 Electroshock us. So, are they going to try for Tailwind though? That's the question. Even if they do, we should be able to get our Expanding Force off and our Psychic Terrain up. And this should do decent damage to allow our Pokemon in the back to clean up what's left. Because I don't think they have anything stopping us from unleashing on turn 1, and it should do a large chunk of damage. Unfortunately, we don't get the stamina, but we get our Psychic Terrain up, and we get a big Expanding Force off. This will go... not enough to KO a Pelipper. It gets the defense bonus. It was a Citrus Berry Pelipper. So here we see the Electroshock. We'll see who that's into. Most likely the Alakazam. No, into the Meowstic. So, not enough to KO. And then we see Hurricane into the Alakazam. Our special defense is pretty good. We should be able to survive that. And we do. So, we could do all of that again. But this time we'll be able to KO the Pelipper, and then that should leave the Archeludon to take single target damage. It'll likely pick up the KO on the Alakazam, but the advantage of having the Psychic Terrain up, if they try to do something, we cover both, but they don't do anything, so we get a free take out the Pelipper. I'm also tossing up Meowstic's other move. I've got Dark Pulse there to cover for the, we can't be Psychic, or we can't Psychic against Psychic, so I went Dark Pulse. But there are other options there, like Thunderbolt. They could have been good options there. We'll see if it goes again for the Meowstic, or they pivot. No, they go for the Alakazam. So we still have our Meowstic firing off some expanded forces. We could have, again, protected on Alakazam that turn, but this allows us to get our... What are we expecting them to come into? So I reckon we Decidueye, because they could likely bring out the Basculegion here while it's still raining. But they bring out Meganium, which in the rain's not bad. But we're going to try and seal the deal on this Archeludon. And again, we've still got Psychic Terrain. So worst case scenario, yeah, I don't think it's... If we Expanding Force here take out the Archeludon, then we're going to be triple arrowsing against the Mega Meganium, which isn't going to be effective, but I think it's going to be as ineffective as if we were to pick Leaf Blade. And I don't think we need the Tailwind. We kind of just need to stall out the rain so that our Incineroar can clean up. But let's see what they decide to lock into. Again, we've got speed control here. They didn't Tailwind on their Pelipper. They just decided to do a bit of hurricaning, which is... I guess they didn't have Tailwind, but that's a really odd choice to not have Tailwind. So yeah, we get our Expanding Force. This should be enough to pick up the Archeludon, and it is, and bring the Meganium down to 56%. It does get a Dazzling Gleam out. Shouldn't pick up the KO on Decidueye, and it does not. Which enables us to get our triple arrows in, but it is a fast Meganium. Because remember, we are Jolly and max speed on our Decidueye. So, is Psychic Terrain over? We really need to be able to fake out this turn, but having Psychic Terrain there is... really working against us. So, yeah. So, I think we're expecting another Dazzling Gleam. So maybe we protect. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to fake out with the Psychic Terrain going. And I don't think we've got a really good position here, which is... killer, because the rain and the Psychic Terrain's blocking us from attacking the Meganium. Ideally, I could fake out here and try and set up Tailwind, but the threat of Basculegion is quite large. I don't think we've got enough to be able to take it out unless they double into this Decidueye this turn. Aquajet, okay, so they're not familiar with the terrain, because I think that's twice now they've tried to use a priority move, or just once. But we'll get our Darkest Lariat off, and that'll take it down to Sash. It will. So that saved them. But yeah, the Dazzling Gleam is still a threat. We still don't have an answer for it. We don't have any priority moves because we've swapped out our Tailwind. So yeah, I mean, we can try something like this in the rain. We should be able to pick it out. But yeah, we're not in a great position here. Our only saving grace is our Incineroar's fairly healthy. But yeah, we've just lost Decidueye. A Wave Crash is most likely coming next. I don't know if we can survive that. It is at -1. They went for Flip Turn. Maybe to try and save their recall damage, but we'll do that to ourselves. Thank you very much. So yeah, we had enough, but the Focus Sash on their Basculegion saved him out in that fight. Yeah, I definitely think I'm going to need to try and weave some protects going in because we don't have the hit points to really survive many attacks, regardless whether it's effective or not. So again, just having to learn the team and change the piloting style, which some people will be able to do on a fly. Takes me a little bit. But we're up against Ban. So here we see Whimsicott Sneasler and the Melodic. So I'm mindful to bring the Incineroar. We're going to try and lead this, mindful that the Sinestra could Trick Room and they could go into the Torkoal mode. They could also just as easily Sneasler and do other things. So, or is this our opportunity actually for Glamora, just in case they Charizard, but we could also bring Alakazam. Ooh, this is choices. I reckon Decidueye Glamora lead. We'll do Pangoro, and it was our last one. I don't think Incineroar is going to be overly helpful here. Maybe Meowstic be a bit more helpful. Not really quite sure what they're going to lead in this scenario because they've got many options and it's very difficult to try and cover all of them. So we've done our best. They decided with Sneasler and Melodic. So good thing we didn't lead with our Incineroar. So we could definitely protect. Are they going to try and do something this turn to our Glamora? So let's protect. And do we need the Tailwind? Do we need to double protect? Do we reckon we go a Leaf Blade? I mean, they could just as easily fake out our Decidueye here. So could also swap that to Spiky Shield as well. But there's the fake out on Decidueye. So they were going to just Scald or Muddy Water. Icy Wind. So maybe a double protect would have been good then. But we've at least retained our Glamora speed. So now we should be able to Earth Power quite easily. Do we need to swap into something? Maybe Meowstic. Do we stay in? I'm expecting them to more Icy Wind and also potentially Diaclaw. So we'll try and cover that with Meowstic. There's the Diaclaw, so yeah. And they get the sleep, so props to them. We at least get our Earth Power off, which is not enough to KO a Sneasler. And then they get the Scald on our Mega Glamora, which we survive. So again, we know that they're faster. They're going to Scald again. Maybe this is our time to switch back to Decidueye. And yeah, we're not in a good position, unfortunately. So yeah, if we get rid of, or we'll take Glamora back, try get Decidueye in, maybe they'll Scald again. They'll U-turn on us. That'll end our Meowstic. So they'll need to pivot before we do. So they're bringing in Charizard. And then Light Screen. So that'll cover our next turn So let's threaten them with that. If we threaten them with a power gem, that might encourage them and or bait them to attack, so we can get our tower wind set up. But opponents at Ultra Ball level are quite inquisitive and quite intuitive. So it's very hard to predict what they're going to do. They've just withdrawn Melodic. Bring Whimsicott out to try and set up their own Tailwind. They're going to set up the Sun. They'll protect then. Oh, it's Charizard X. So we protect. They protect. They Dragon Clawed us. Okay. But yeah, we'll set up our Tailwind. So when they set up their Tailwind, we'll still be faster. And then, is this the time we need to preserve our Decidueye for later. So let us adaptability power gem a Charizard. I don't know if this is going to be enough. Because they don't need to Tailwind, but they do. We should still be faster. But I don't know if that's going to be enough, but it is. Okay. So I don't know if that was... No? Alright. Because when it Mega Evolves into Mega X, it loses the flying fire and goes back to just being 2 times damage, but it seems that was enough. So yeah, we'll not risk a Sneasler. They'll Sneasler Fake Out and Dazzling Gleam would be my prediction. Because you could easily fake out the Glamora, and then Whimsicott would likely OHKO the Pangoro. But they decided to go for close combat. And Moonblast. Oh, something different. Okay, so they were changing it around a bit. That's fine. We've still got to try and deal with this combo. So I reckon an Ice Punch and a Sludge Bomb. So yeah, they get the close combat off, which will KO our Pangoro. That Sneasler is fast, and with the drop, do we see White Herb and Unburden? There's the White Herb, so now they're doubly fast. But this will be into the Sash, so yeah, they've got us very cornered already. Yeah, Moonblast should be enough. It is. So yeah, that leaves us with our Decidueye in not a great position. So we'll call it there. Because yeah, Decidueye was going to be our answer to Melodic, but unfortunately we couldn't get an answer to their Whimsicott and the Sneasler. But we will keep battling on. See, in our first video, or our first session with the team, it was a lot of Farigiraf. So we were trying to manage around that manically. But we made some changes and now we're not seeing any Farigirafs. Funny how that is. But we see another Whimsicott. We're not overly threatened by a Melodic. So we're free to lead Incineroar and Glamora. We will have our Decidueye to cover for the Rotom and the Archeliodon. We're going to have our Glamora do a fair bit of work because unless we get Alakazam in, we've still got a few of their Pokemon to try and cover for. I reckon Pangoro again. We keep giving him a go. He keeps getting one hit KO'd and we keep slowly realizing why it's not in the format. So let's actually just go Alakazam instead. Oh, that would have been... Pangoro might be a good answer to Archeliodon if they brought it. But let's see. So Whimsicott Cleaver. We at least get the Intimidate drop. So yeah, we'll definitely fake out. And do we try and shut them completely down? Most Whimsicott don't run Protect. But we also get the Power Gem against Bug. But if they get the Tailwind off, we're in a bad position. But let's do Crossplay. They could see it and switch out, but they just hang about. They might have Protect. Some Whimsicotts do, some don't. Cleaver protects. Righto. So yeah, we get the fake out. So we could have just very easily doubled into the Whimsicott then, who just tried to obviously Tailwind. So now our Incineroar's not in a great position, so we'll get him out of there. We could just as easily Parting Shot, but again, the Tailwind's threatening. So let's... Are we going to expect Cleaver into Incineroar? Let's try and get rid of this Whimsicott. So typically from Cleaver you see things like Stone Axe. But yeah, there's the Tailwind. We could have stopped last turn if we just doubled, but get a bit in your own head. There's the Stone Axe. We at least resist that. And then we can pick up the KO on the Whimsicott. But now Incineroar is going to be hurt the next time he swaps in. But let's try not require a switch in. So Whimsicott down. Let's see who they bring in next. Rotom. A interesting choice to bring in. So let's take the opportunity to get our own Tailwind up. Or are they going to bug us? I'm not overly threatened by Bug. Let's try and get a Tailwind up. And let us try and Power Gem. So there's the X-Scissor. This should be not enough. So here's the Hydro Pump. Connects. Ooh, okay, so got to be mindful. Oko from a Rotom. But we do get our Tailwind up now. So that should last a few more turns on them. And then we can bring in our Incineroar. Because what have they got in the back? Alright, so yeah, we bring in Incineroar. So put the pressure back on them. Get Cleaver down a little bit more in the attack stat. So that allows us to... We'll triple arrows the Cleaver. And we'll fake out the Rotom. Are we worried about the Rotom? Could do another Hydro Pump, I guess. But they've withdrawn Cleaver, so the fake out was good. Rotom protects anyway. So they've positioned into Volcarona. We try to fake out. And we get the triple arrows off, which almost half. We get the crit. They get the defense fall. How many more turns of their Tailwind have they got? 1. So let's protect a turn, because then we're in a good position next turn, and we'll need Incineroar a bit later. So let's get Alakazam in here. Likely see a Quiver Dance. Maybe a... I'm not really sure what you would do in this position. Although Incineroar is probably going to die on the next switch in because of the Stone Axe. But we see the Flamethrower. And Hydro Pump into the Alakazam slot. We survive. Their tailwind's now petered out, so they're now threatened by our leaf blade. Are they going to stay in for it? Because they've also got cleaver in the back. So let's do that. And yeah, we've only got expanding force. We're best off using psychic move. We'll see how much this does to their Volcarona. Volcarona protects. So our expanding force won't connect. Next up should be our leaf blade. Hopefully this crits. 0, 100% done. So they didn't see that coming maybe. But yeah, big damage. Now our side's tailwind is petered out, which is going to even the playing field. But, so we've got Incin in the back, and Incin's pretty healthy. We know a triple arrows does pretty decent damage against Volcarona, and it just protected. So unless they're going to go for a double on it, we might try and get some chip on both, I think. Or we just double into the Volcarona, I think. Ooh, that's big damage. Crit. Okay. So that'll redirect the Decidueyes attack. But they've gone for a Rock Slide, which should be able to clean up both. So now it's Incineroar versus Cleaver. So we're going to be able to swap in. We've still got our Citrus Berry. We can fake out, do a bit of chip. We lost 25% of our life. So yeah, we'll fake out, do a bit of chip. Although I think their Stone Axe is just going to be able to clean us out. But we'll see if we survive. It's very likely that they're faster than us, so... But I know Cleaver's pretty frail, so if we can somehow edge out a survive here... But no. Okay. Unfortunate. Yeah, maybe last turn, if we'd taken out the Cleaver, would have left him with Volcarona. So maybe that was the turn we should have doubled on the Cleaver, knowing we had Incineroar in the back. But we remain rank 2. So again, yeah, we'll play a couple more games, get a feel, see if it's worth taking back to the drawing board or not. We've got certainly options, but our prime goal is to try and get, the Psychic Terrain and the Expanding Force off, which is preventing us. There's a lot of other teams out there preventing us getting that off. But we'll see. It's certainly a roller coaster, even with the changes. Again, we made those changes based on all the things we saw in the last session, which we are not seeing in this session. And yeah, it's now taking a little bit to try and find us another pairing. See, I'm not sure. We've got 7 days left in this season. So I've got 7 days to try and get Master Ball in our doubles. If you reach Master Ball by the end of the season, you get an extra 10,000 VP for both. So last season I managed Master Ball in both tiers, and you get an extra 20,000. So certainly helps. But we have finally found another opponent. Let's see what it is that they have. Okay, so they're a very sandstormy type team. Nothing overly threatening us from leading, although they've got a bit of ground and electricity and Frostlass. What are all the sands for? I haven't seen that before. I think we just straight up try our Psy Spam, but we'll obviously have Decidueye in the back to cover the ground types. And then, yeah, we'll have Incineroar to cover the Frostlass and the Sinistra. We could just as easily have gone Glamora here. Glamora has certainly options. Pangoro, about as much, not as many. So yeah, I think we're okay to try and set up, assuming their Sneasler's going to come in. But let's see what they decide to lead with. So Hippowdon and Sanaconda. So they are going for hard sand, which is cool. It's interesting. It's unique. But we're just going to straight up Expanding Force and Psychic Terrain. I know Hippowdon, well, in the sand, they get the special defense boost. So this isn't going to do as much as we want it to. But we can at least get a turn of chip in. We get Sandstream. Meowstic will set up the Psychic Terrain. And we do one big Expanding Force before likely getting absolutely destroyed. But we've got enough to take out the Sanaconda and bring the Hippowdon down to 40%. So we do 60% damage. It's back up to 65. And all they've managed to do is set up Stealth Rock. So they are not in a great position. We've got our Psychic Terrain up. So if Sneasler comes in now, it's not going to be able to fake out. So maybe they've not seen this combo before and we've caught them off guard. But next turn is going to be even worse for them. So there's the Sinistra. No, Hospitality. Okay, so yeah, we just do another Expanding Force, but this time ×2. Do we need to? Yes, because we only did 60% before, so we're going to need the extra bit of Expanding Force. So even if they Rage Powder, we double. But we do big damage there, and then Meowstic should be able to clean up the remaining. And then it's 4v1. And all they've done was set up Stealth Rock. See, I'm guessing they didn't see this coming or have an answer for it. And that's sometimes how you win. You know, you got to try and cover every single team out there, and there's hundreds of different teams out there. And can't do it all. All you can do is the best you can and have fun along the way. So yeah, this will be ×4. It is not focus sashed. So that'll contribute to our use extremely effective moves for the weekly goal. And yeah, I mean, ideally that's the, where you want the team to go. Just come out, start swinging, big damage, AoE. But as you've seen also, it just doesn't always work out that way. Oh, we've got a time for a few more games. Again, yet to really see if our adjustments have made a difference. But that was a lot quicker matchmaking. And we're up against Pelican now. So here we see a bit more fake out pressure. We also see the Defiant King Gambit. So again, I reckon we still try and lead our Meowstic Alakazam here. We've got options once we set up our Psychic Terrain. Then we'll have to Incineroar of our own with Decidueye, I think. Or is this where Pangoro comes in? I think Pangoro is going to come in and clean up a bit more here. And yeah, we'll need Incineroar for a bit later. So yeah, hopefully we should be able to turn 1 or turn 2 Psychic Terrain. Depends how overtly threatening their leads are. But it didn't look like they have options for Tailwind. So yeah, Gengar and Incineroar. Alakazam and Meowstic. So yeah, Intimidate not impacting our inner focus. So yeah, we're just gonna double protect here. Are we worried about the Incineroar? Because the Incineroar with Darkest Lariat is certainly threatening, but their Gengar's going to go down very quickly if it stays in. So let's protect a turn, then we don't have to try and figure out who's going to get faked out, etc. They might even protect here as well. So we'll protect. Meowstic goes first because of the Prankster. Makes it look like it's faster. So yeah, that'll block the fake out, and the Shadow Ball was into Meowstic. So we could have actually survived that. But let's not. Let's get Incineroar in. No, wait, we're under Mega Gengar now, so we're locked in. So let's Dazzling Gleam and Psychic Terrain. Do we need a Psychic Terrain? Let's just Expanding Force, yeah? Because if they go for another Shadow Ball, Darkest Lariat, we should be able to at least get rid of their Gengar this turn. Well, we get Shadow Tag, so not sure how that's going to work, but we'll see. Dazzling Gleam does nothing to the Incineroar. The Shadow Ball comes out. We'll live with our Focus Sash. And we should be able to fire back a Expanding Force, non-boosted. But this should pick up the KO. It does not. Okay, so good to note. And then, yeah, we see Throat Chop come out, which will KO our Alakazam. So now we can threaten with Pangoro. Because we're going to need to get rid of their Incineroar. And I think Drain Punch is going to be able to do that. And I don't think we need to Psychic Terrain at this point. They're likely going to try and Shadow Ball it again. So let's just protect a turn. And they might also protect. Not sure. They could just as easily Parting Shot as well. Maybe given Pangoro's our kind of counter to Incineroar, we should probably do some calcs about speed and try and outspeed it by at least 1 or 2. But yeah, losing Alakazam there was pretty rough. But yeah, we protected turn 1. We couldn't do much turn 2. Again, there's that Shadow Ball. We are faster than Incineroar. Drain Punch picks up the KO, so that'll clean out their Incineroar. Gengar seems to be locked into trying to take out this Meowstic for some reason. Maybe the Gengar doesn't have a Dazzling Gleam. But here we see the Ninetales. So again, we can do more punching. Or we can try and clean up the Gengar. I think a Drain Punch onto the Ninetales. And yeah, if they don't do anything about our Meowstic, then at least Gengar can get KO'd. It kind of keeps the pressure on, kind of keeps Gengar locked, because yeah, if Gengar doesn't do this and pivots, then it's going to go the other way. So yeah, now we'll see a Blizzard from the Ninetales. Single target Blizzard or a Disable. So it's going to block our Drain Punch. But that's okay. We can get Incineroar in now. That'll get the Intimidate. And then, yeah, we're going to have to swap to Darkest Lariat now. And fake out the Ninetales. Gengar's in a pretty rough position here with only access to Sludge Bomb and Shadow Ball. against Pangoro and Incineroar. It's not an ideal matchup for Gengar. But Ninetales protects, so that'll block the Fake Out. But we're locked into... They could Encore here us, which would be bad. The Destiny Bond. So that's the last move. So there goes our Pangoro from full health. So again, some cool little tech for Gengar. Sometimes it's Disable, sometimes it's Destiny Bond. You just never know. And yeah, that'll get rid of Pangoro, who was already disabled. But then it's going to be Incin verse 2. And it's going to be the King Gambit. So if we Flare Blitz here, they could just as easily Encore us into Fake Out, and that'll be it for us. And if it's Disable, they could disable Flare Blitz after. But yeah, if it's Encore, we're ruined. So we'll see what they've got. So it is Blizzard. So not doing huge amounts of damage. We'll be able to get our Flare Blitz off. They'll try and disable that if they're not sashed, but they just survive. And then is it Low Kick? It's Kowtow Cleave. This should still do decent damage, right? A little bit. We get the Citrus Berry, but they could just easily disable our Flare Blitz right now. So we're going to have to Darkest Lariat to get rid of the Ninetales. But then we're stuck not doing a lot to the King Gambit for a few turns. Yeah, there's the disable on the Flare Blitz. We needed the Flare Blitz to do decent damage, although we could have Darkest Lariat then Flare Blitzed. That might have been the play. Because we'd seen the disable on the Pangoro. And then, yeah, we didn't see Supreme Overlord, so we're going to assume that it is Defiant, and we don't want to be parting shotting it. So it's if we can survive a couple of 3 turns for Disable, and I don't think we can. Because they could just as easily Swords Dance here as well. But how much is the Darkest Lariat doing? 14%. Not happening. Because, yeah, Kowtow Cleave will take us down to more than what we need. So we'll end it there. So that was a lot of misplays, I think. It's unfortunate. Piloting errors. But again, learning, having fun, trying something different. We'll do 1 or 2 more. Oh, new data has become available, apparently. Game data. Righto. Something's happened. So is there a news post about what just happened? Or not? No? Okay. Bit of a hot fix, maybe. But let's continue with our team. I imagine everyone would have just been disconnected. So everyone be maybe rushing to get back in. We are now paired against Pedro. Alright, so we've got a Blastoise. Alright, so yeah, again, I think strong leads here. We definitely Incineroar and Decidueye. Glamora, not overly effective. Pangoro, not overly effective either. In comparison to Decidueye. Yeah, Decidueye's got a few options, and we're obviously looking at that King Gambit and the Blastoise. Pangoro doesn't really have that breadth of coverage, so expecting to see the King Gambit at some point this battle. But they lead with Sinestra and Dragapult. So nothing stopping us from expanding force, and unless they go for the Trick Room. So do we want to cover for the Trick Room, or do we just want to do big damage? Let's just do big damage. Get Psychic Terrain up. So yeah, the Sinistra could just as easily Trick Room here, and this could be their answer to our leads. But we get Clear Body, great. Psychic Terrain goes up. We'll be able to do some big expanding force damage here. Nothing from their side. Get rid of the Dragapult. Sinistra's on 28%, so big damage was the way to go. It'll eat a Citrus Berry and then likely Trick Room. No, Machigotcha. Alakazam avoids, so it just hits the Meowstic for 49 points of damage. Okay, so yeah, no Trick Room, nothing. We should be able to just clean up. There's the King Gambit, who won't be able to Sucker Punch. So we'll Dazzling Gleam. Or this might be our opportunity, actually. Let's get Pangoro in. No, we don't have Pangoro. We've got Decidueye. Let's get Decidueye in, and we'll Dark Pulse the Sinistra. So yeah, this is kind of where Dark Pulse, there's the Sucker Punch, which doesn't work in Psychic Terrain. But yeah, Dark Pulse being useful here, where our Psychic Expanding Force is not. There's the Trick Room. So it was coming, just not when we expected it to. But that'll allow us to triple arrows. And then, yeah, unless they're going to go for another Sucker Punch, they could just as easily go for a Kowtow Cleave. But we've got Sinistra covered if we can just get rid of the Sinistra. Although, if we Dark Pulse later, yeah, okay. Rage Power was a good choice then, because that's forced our triple arrows off onto Ghost, which isn't going to work. So, although we are grass and we are immune to Rage Powder, I wonder if that's caught them out as well. So yeah, 6% left on the King Gambit. Allows us to, because I'm hesitant to bring Incineroar in, or does that not matter at this stage? I think we Alakazam. I think that's fine. We get to fight now, but I don't think they're going to be able to proc us on that. They've got 3 turns of Trick Room left, but we can straight up just do that again, because Kowtow Cleave is not overly threatening to our Decidueye. And yeah, we'll just protect, see if we can pick up the KO here. King Gambit could just as easily try and protect, but tries to go for the Kowtow Cleave. That'll allow us, they get the Life Dew, but another triple arrow should be able to pick up the KO on King Gambit. Big damage. So extremely effective, 4 times damage, plus we get the crit as well. So now it's Sinistra. We've got our Incineroar in the back, which we can bring in now too. So it all depends who they've got left, and it is Blastoise. So yeah, Decidueye doing big work here. Because yeah, we want to do a grassy attack. Are we going to live? Do we risk it? Yeah, let's risk it. So being Jolly max speed here is not great. I don't think they would Shell Smash. They're most likely going to try and do big water spout damage, but we should be able to survive. There's the Machigotcha. A little bit of damage, not very effective. It gets a little bit of life back. And then Alakazam gets the burn. and a bit more damage, a bit more life for Sinestra. Ice Beam. We survive. Hopefully don't get frozen, and we should be able to fire a Leaf Blade back. And we do. And that is more than enough to KO, and then it's just Sinestra versus the world. And Trick Room ends in a turn or two. But we get the Expanding Force off because we risked it for a biscuit and paid off. So there you go. Again, bit more ups, bit more downs, had a few more options, worked a little bit better, but we had completely different opponents. So it can go either way. Again, a bit more you could probably tweak with the team, but otherwise it's a bit of a roller coaster, but it's a bit of fun when you can, especially when you get the combo off. But we'll leave it there for now. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel, and I appreciate your support. Until next time, take care and enjoy. Thanks.